Welcome to the Not Just a Pony Ride podcast, presented to you by Hetra University. If you've landed here, you're probably passionate about how horses help people. Whether you're an instructor, therapist, in the business, or have experienced equine assisted services yourself, we're glad you're here. Join us as we talk about the benefits, the science, to-dos, how-tos, and all of the reasons why what we do is so much more than just a pony ride. And now, from the Hetra campus in Gretna, Nebraska, here's your host, occupational therapist Katie King.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am sort of in awe about interviewing today's guest, really. I'm sure that you've seen the Netflix movie based on her life called Walk Ride Rodeo. If you haven't, go there now and watch it. It was awesome. Or if you pay any attention at all to rodeo, you have heard her name, I'm sure. Well, today I talked with Amberley Snyder. She is a highly accomplished rodeo cowgirl and has been competing since she was literally 7 years old. But her story took a huge shift when in 2010, Amberley was involved in a rollover truck accident that left her paralyzed from the waist down. Let me tell you, that did not stop this woman. She is absolutely incredible, and through grit and courage, she was back rodeoing only 18 months after that accident. Well, today, Amberley shared her journey with me through finding confidence and getting her groove back and advocating for herself when she really needed to. And she really does it with a special grace and sense of humor that I really appreciated. I'm sure you guys will too. Enjoy. Welcome, Amberley. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to get to visit.
Absolutely. Well, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about you?
So I guess if I had to tell my story in a nutshell, right, a little bit about who I am, I come from an amazing family that taught me so many great qualities that I didn't even know were going to apply to so many parts of my life. I'm the second of 6 kids. My dad was a baseball player. My mom was a cheerleader, and they created an amazing family. So I started to ride horses when I was 3. My mom made sure that was possible for me. And at the age of 7, we moved from California to Utah, where I was able to get my very first barrel horse. Her name was Lacey. And I started competing in rodeo all the way up through junior high and into high school. And then the year after I graduated, my life changed when I was involved in a rollover truck accident, leaving me paralyzed from the waist down. And I then had to kind of rediscover what I was going to do with my life. And I was able to get back on a horse strapped to my saddle and now compete professionally, mostly across the Western United States. And I'm also a keynote speaker where I get to share my story to all sorts of groups of people. I guess that would be kind of me in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's what brings you here, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what does a day in your life kind of look like right now?
Every day is very different, especially we're in the heat of rodeo season. So normally I'm actually not even home. I'm pretty much waking up in my trailer somewhere, getting ready to be at a rodeo. So that's really been my last couple months. When I am home, it's a little bit chaotic between, getting caught up on my work things, with speaking, getting back to people on that, of course, planning podcasts and whatever that takes. That's kind of my work side of life. Then there is still the horse side of life. So I'm going to be getting my horses rode and fed and taken care of every day. I try to stand every day. I have a standing frame here at the house, so I try to stand when I'm home every day. Normally I do CrossFit as well, so I get my CrossFit in. And I mean, it's like so many little things, right? And then it's just taking care of the house, like, making sure that the house is taken care of. Anybody who takes care of a house, they know all the things. There's always something to do. So then there's just that part of life too. So that's kind of like my day at home normal schedule. And then of course, when I'm gone, whether it's speaking, I'm flying or I'm traveling somewhere to speak. And as far as the rodeos, I'll be driving and competing in rodeos when I'm doing that. So kind of a shift of all things of what I'm doing when I'm home versus on the road.
Yeah, I think anybody who owns horses or, does pretty much anything with horses, it's like, what do you do every day? Well, it depends on what my horses are doing or what they need.
Yep, that's exactly how it is. I mean, it just kind of bases around, and literally, like we were talking today, I have vet appointments I'm trying to get scheduled up for my dog and my horses so that I can get everything where I want them to be.
What does your herd look like, or what kind? I know you have a barrel horse you run. So do you have a couple of different ones you run, or what's your herd look like?
Yeah, I have a few. I have Power. Everyone knows Power. He's the one that would have been for the movie. He's actually retired. He lives at my parents' house. So he's there. He's actually babysitting a recipient mare for me right now that has a baby in her from one of my others. So I have those two. I have a 2-year-old. She's off getting trained right now. Her name is Yellowstone. So I have her off doing that. And then I have my barrel horses here. So I have Legacy is my main horse that I run at all the pro rodeos and whatnot. He's my main guy. I have a mare named Penny that I got last year, and she's kind of my backup mare right now. And then I just bought a horse yesterday, so I don't have her yet. She is actually in Texas currently, but her name is Willow. And when I figure out how to get her a ride to me, then I will have her as well. So I have a few. I don't have a ton, which I'm totally okay with.
Yeah, enough to keep you busy for sure.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about what types of horses you look for, especially now after the accident.
So that has shifted, obviously there's the basis of, the conformation and the way they're built and the way they're bred. I mean, that doesn't really shift because that's the kind of quality that we're looking for. But what does shift is a lot of the personality type and then the style that they have when they run. So my horses have kind of a lot of fire, which not a lot of people expect because they expect my horses to be quiet because they need to be careful of being around me and whatnot. They're not really like that. They're actually pretty fiery and have a lot of energy involved. So my horses all have that. So I look for that really because I want them to want to run. I don't want to have to ask for that run all the time. I want them to just want to do it. So that's a big piece for me. But of course they do need to be broke. I don't want to have anything crazy. I've tried to be the cowgirl since my accident, and thought it's okay if they buck, I'm strapped in, and that's caused a couple of wrecks. So I don't really go that route anymore. I want them to be broke, insane. But they definitely just need the fire involved.
Tell me about the first time that you got back on after your accident. What was that like?
So that is one of the craziest questions that I get asked because people think that the first time getting back on should have been amazing, right? It should have been like this magical kind of moment. And it actually really wasn't. The very first time I got back on a horse was 4 months after my accident. And it was terrible because it was like kind of the last straw I felt like I had of my old life in a way. And when I got on a horse and realized it was also going to be different, I was pretty crushed. Because now I realized every part of my life was different and I was going to have to figure out how to just really relive this new life.
Yeah, absolutely. I just couldn't imagine. I feel like I would want to almost procrastinate that part of getting back on because you're like, I don't know if it's going to be different. Is it? And it's like, you probably know it's going to be, but how different. And so I think it would be hard. I think it would be really hard to get back on after that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like I'd almost brainwashed myself that I thought it was going to be the one thing that wasn't going to change, even though like, if I'd have been realistic, I would have known that. And so, yeah, I was like, get me back on a horse because that's going to make everything perfect. Honestly, almost like the fairy tale side of me, like this little fairy tale side is like, this is going to be perfect. Like this is going to fix everything. And like, it just couldn't.
Yeah.
So had to make a lot of adjustments after that in order to get back on and for it to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. What horse did you get back on? Who was the first horse you got back on after your accident?
The first horse, his name was Wrangler. He was my rope horse. I wanted to get on Power, but Power was kind of hot. He was a little bit crazy, a little bit hot. So I got on my rope horse because he was very chill and very mellow and was going to take care of me. So I got on Wrangler was his name. Yeah.
Especially with just things being different, the way you get on and the way you move and the way your weight is distributed, after your accident, I'm sure that feels different for the horse too. So did you feel that, when you were getting back on and in the process of getting going again, when you got back on Power, did he feel like it was different too?
Oh, absolutely. My horses all know that it's different. And even the ones that I ride now, that only know this side of me, they definitely are very aware that my legs don't work. And whether people who are listening believe in readers or not, I've spoken to a couple animal readers and yeah, they 100% are aware that my legs don't work, and they actually feel a little more responsibility because of that, because they really do take on the factor of that they need to take care of me. And that's not because I asked them to. They just can recognize that that's what they're supposed to do. Horses have a lot of intuition. So they absolutely can feel that and know that that's their job. Sometimes do I think that some horses take advantage of it? Yeah, absolutely they do. But other horses that want to be my friend and want to take care of me, they're okay with it. And they really just work to be my teammate. But yeah, they all know something is different. Power knew in the beginning, legs knows now. I mean, every horse does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about horses is that they really do have that intuition and they know what they can do around who, whether that be really good and take care of this person or be naughty because, maybe the person leading me doesn't, isn't as confident or something, like even when you lead horses on the ground and they'll take advantage of that too sometimes, but they have an incredible intuition to know what they can and can't do, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what part did horses really play for you? I mean, obviously a huge role in your rehab and all of that, both physically and mentally when, you were making the climb back to competing, full time like you are now.
I mean, yeah, they definitely are a big part of that. And I almost feel bad for Power because I think he had to take on so much of my emotions when it came back to that roller coaster of getting back on. He dealt with the hard days that probably had nothing to do with him at all. But then he did get to be a part of some of my very favorite days, right? The things that were the happiest moments. So those horses did play a huge role for me for that. I think that they still do. I mean, if I think of why I still am who I am and why I get to do what I do, and honestly, why I even on days don't feel good and I need to just go get on a horse. I mean, there's a lot that has to be said with that. The physical part, like it definitely helps like my body stay active. Even though the horse is of course doing the work and whatever, but they're in essence, it's the closest thing to walking, being on the back of a horse. So I think that helps my body stay as good as it possibly can. And then the mental part and the emotional part of it, they keep me upbeat. They keep me having something to look forward to and something to be striving to. It's also the reason why, obviously, like people learned who I was and still follow me and everything is because of what I'm doing with my horses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting that you bring up the way it is the closest thing to walking, because I think that plays both physically and mentally, because physically we know that the horse's pelvis and their gait is very similar to the way that we move. And so it activates a lot of those same muscles. But then also there's that mental part of it where it's like, you get to leave the chair behind and you get to just go compete and just be free, the way that you always have been. So it's both physical and mental in that way.
Absolutely.
Have you ever done any work with, what we do, Hetra, in doing like therapeutic riding and that type of thing? Have you ever worked with anybody or, spoken to a group that does more of the kind of therapeutic riding side of things?
I have done a couple of keynotes and spoke at a couple therapy centers, not in the essence of I haven't really worked with myself there. I haven't got on any of those horses because I have my own herd at the house, but I've definitely visited with a few therapy centers and I've spoke for like the Path had a conference that a couple of years ago and I went and spoke at that. So I was able to meet with a lot of people who have the therapeutic riding centers and the program set up that help people, and was able to even visit with like what does help me more, and get to visit through the pros and cons of certain things and what people could benefit from just through my experience and what I've done. So yeah, I mean, I've got to visit with quite a few. I've never ridden at any, but I have gotten to visit with quite a few.
I'm sure that your journey has led you to meet so many people and so many just really awesome organizations and groups of people. What do you think is the most inspirational thing that you've been in a part of or seen since your accident, even that you have been a part of, yourself?
Man, I mean, I get to be lucky with everything that I see, and the people that I meet. It's usually the littles for me, right? It's the little kids. I've been able to meet some phenomenal little kids that inspire and motivate me. Whether they were injured when they were little, or that they were born with something that has, that's a challenge that they're going to have to face their entire lives, but that they still have that smile on their face and they're still looking forward to life and they're still excited about life, whether it's on a horse or off a horse. If I think about and it's giving me chills even talking about it. Like when I think about some of my favorite moments, it's when I get to visit with those little kids that, they think that I'm cool, right? And I'm just like, oh my gosh, you're the cool one. Like you have no idea how cool you are, that you still have the spirit that you have about you, regardless of the challenges you have to face. It's been anywhere from there's a little girl in Colorado that pops out to my mind. There was a girl, actually, I guess that other one was in Colorado too, just as a different event. There was a little girl in Texas that I absolutely loved, that I actually met just this last year. It's just, there's been a lot of those, just these little kids, man, they brighten your day.
Yeah. When you go to, rodeos and different events, do, people recognize you and want to talk to you and all that kind of stuff?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think I go if it is a horse related event at all, I don't go anywhere without somebody knowing who I am when I'm there. Which is very sweet. It's very sweet that these kids, I have these little girls that come up and they just start crying. They can't even talk. And that just blows my mind, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just feel like I'm out here just doing the best I can. And sometimes I even forget the impact that has on some of the people that are watching. So yeah, it's very humbling and reminds me of the purpose that I serve.
Yeah. I just want to thank you so much for, sharing your story and for doing all of, the things that you do, because it's important. Your story is important that, people know, and it inspires people that you probably don't even know. And I think that sharing that is just a huge part of it.
This episode of the Not Just a Pony Ride podcast is sponsored in part by
Equiforce. Equiforce is a database that allows you to track every facet of your organization, from horse, donor, and volunteer management to scheduling, grant tracking, incident reports, and tracking participant progress too. This is not a one-size-fits-all setup. Instead, Equiforce personally works with you to learn how your facility functions and takes note of your specific terminology so that they can create a unique system to match the needs of your organization. And of course, Equiforce provides an ongoing training and support so that your database can grow with you. Visit them at www.equiforce.com. That's EQUI-FORCE.com.
This episode is also sponsored in part by
Wooden Horse Corporation and the Equicizer. The Equicizer is a handcrafted, non-motorized mechanical horse used by equine-assisted service programs worldwide. The Equicizer requires no electricity, tools, or maintenance and can be used indoors or out for evaluations, warm-ups, stretching, mounting, dismounting practice, and volunteer training, fear, and build confidence with students, clients, and volunteers. It can easily carry the weight of 2 adults, offering the unique option to ride tandemly. To learn more about the Equicizer, visit equicizer.com. That's EQUICIZER.com.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? What are your future goals? You have this kind of, fame that comes ahead of you wherever you go, and people are listening to you. And what are your goals and dreams as you move forward?
I still have my goals in the speaking world. I want to speak in all 50 states, and that's been a big goal for me. And
how close are you to getting done?
I have 41 states. So awesome. I'm actually getting pretty dang close. So that's exciting. That's a big goal I have in the speaking world. And then just to continue to grow that to bigger corporations and bigger groups. So that's my speaking goal, I guess we would say. My horse goal, I always have a different goal of what I'm working towards in the rodeo world. This year is making circuit finals. We have 1 month left of the season in order to plan for that. So hopefully that'll go the way that we want. And then, eventually it'll get bigger, making the national finals, making the Canadian finals. Whatever those goals will be, those kind of shift as long as we go. And then, the real life goals, of course, I always plan on walking. I don't know when, and I don't have a timeline for that, but that is a plan that I know that God has for me. And I just have to wait for that to line out. So, there's all those sort of things. And I do have my charity lined up now. So that was one of my goals. I just have to get it up and running. And it takes a lot of work. So.
Gosh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get that all going. Plus I want to get another book written. I mean, there's always something to be working for that I hope that benefits other people as well as, continues to be a bright part of my life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell us about, because you just told me about your charity before we came on. I do want people to know about it because I think it's really, really cool if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, so it's called the Amberley Snyder Freedom Foundation. And the goal of it is to give people pieces of freedom, people that have been injured or veterans, either way, but where you have lost part of the freedom in your life, and part of that independence that you have. So what I'm hoping with my goal with my charity is to get that back. So whether that is hand controls in a vehicle or a ramp in a house, or maybe a saddle setup, whatever that's going to be for somebody to feel like they get more freedom. I know that after my accident, it was so huge for me. Even just having like my cupboards have drop down pieces that I can pull down so I can reach my cupboards. Just that was such a life-changing thing for me. So that is the goal, is that I'm going to be able to give people pieces of freedom and happiness back that they can gain that independence.
Yes, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And so I'm an occupational therapist, and it's amazing how many things people don't think of or people don't even realize are frustrating when you lose a piece of that freedom and you go home to do something that you've always done and now it's different and you're like, oh my gosh, that, like your cupboards, that one thing that like seems so small no one would think of but is huge.
Absolutely. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's what I want to help with.
Do you work with anybody to help you with like your adaptations? I mean, both your saddle, I mean, stuff that I'm sure being on the rodeo circuit and, getting in and out of your trailer, doing all that stuff, was there anybody that you worked with to really help you get that exactly how you want it so you can be as independent as possible?
Kind of a mix of a lot of people actually, especially in the rodeo world, just for the fact of nobody's really done what I do. Mm-hmm. So there wasn't really like a resource, but obviously with my new trailer getting built, like we brainstormed a lot. Okay, how do we want to get in and out? Is a ramp better? Is a lift better? What's the pros and cons of both? Same with the lift that gets me to the bed of the trailer. What could we do that could get me up there? What's possible? Where do I need bars? And that was just a lot of discussion, a lot of trial and error. And I feel like many of the things that I have on my horses, in my home, in my horse trailer are a lot of trial and error and things that I know that can be improved, and things that worked out really well. I don't know if there was ever just like one single human that helped me through everything. I think it's been like, I've learned from this person, and then this person helped me put this together, and this person helped make this possible. Mm-hmm. It was just kind of a combination of a lot of people, which it takes a stinking village in order to be successful. So I'm thankful for all the people that helped me get to where I'm at.
Absolutely. And you have a huge family, and, so I'm sure they played a huge role in getting a lot of that stuff lined up. Does anybody, when you travel, who travels with you?
When it's the speaking, I actually go by myself. So I do those by myself, because I can, as crazy as it sounds. Yeah.
Not crazy at all.
Yeah. That people, are like, well, why don't you want to take anybody? I'm like, because I actually don't have to. And that part is kind of a thing inside of me that I do like taking people when I speak, if it works out, but I'm okay doing that. Yeah. When I'm rodeo, I always have to have somebody with me. So whether it's my friend, Emmy, I actually convinced her to quit her job this year so she could come rodeo with me. So she's been hauling with me all summer, or it's somebody in my family. My little sister rodeos with me too. So when she can go, she comes, my dad comes, my mom comes. It's whoever wants to jump in the trailer, honestly, that wants to go for the rodeo weekend, then they get in and we hit the road.
Excellent. So tell me a little bit about like what it looks like when you arrive, like you get to a rodeo and you get ready, get unloaded. What does a day like that look like for you?
So for me, because if I'm in my living quarters, then I get to help a lot more. So usually we get there, they'll bring me my chair. I'll jump out and I'll start getting like the living quarters part. Like I'll pull out my lift so that I can get in the trailer while they're lowering down the ramp for the horses. And then we tie them all up. We get them fed and watered. So that they're good to stand and hang out till we run. That's kind of, it's a pretty easy gist when we're just pulling in and pulling out. If we have to find stalls, of course, it's very different. Yeah. But otherwise that's it. Then when we get ready to run, we usually tag team on the brushing. Then they saddle, they'll throw saddles on while I boot my horse up. I'll bridle, then I get thrown on and we go to work.
Away we go.
Yep.
I just think that it's really cool when you can have family and friends that close to you that just want to jump in and go and help you, even though I have no doubts that you are just as independent as you can be and as you want to be, but having people around there close that can help you and support you is huge.
Absolutely. No. And it helps that it's something that I've even learned. It used to make me frustrated when I had to get help, but at this point, those people want me to succeed and I know they want me to succeed. And it's not even that they're making it the only way that it's possible, but they're making things easier. So that was kind of even a shift in me that I had to take because it used to frustrate me. And now instead, I'm just grateful that they're willing to jump in and help. And it makes my life just that much easier.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially after a big change, that difficulty asking for help. And I mean, what would you say to someone that may be having some of those thoughts? Like, I can do it myself. I want to be as independent as I can. And I don't want to ask for help. What would you say to those people?
Well, I mean, and I can tell them first that it's okay. Like, it's okay if that's the way you feel. And if that is what is the most empowering for you, then that's all right. But then my other way that I look at it is kind of a different perspective. Like when you are allowed to help someone, how does that make you feel? Right? You get a lot from getting to help someone. So if you allow someone to help you, you're honestly allowing them to have that feeling of gratification, allow that feeling of them being humble, them being grateful. You're really, as crazy as it sounds, when you allow someone to help you, they really are gaining from that. So that kind of helps shift your perspective that the whole service aspect is okay. And pick and choose. I think that you pick and choose. Like, this is something that I can do and I want to do. For example, me booting my horses up. Mm-hmm. I want to do that. I can do that. So nobody else boots my horse. Mm-hmm. But as far as like throwing a saddle on, can I do it? Of course I can. But can someone else do it faster? Absolutely. So I kind of pick and choose that. So I think that if there's anybody who's questioning like, well, I just want to be able to do everything by myself, that's okay to feel like that, but just see where your heart is at in it. And if you feel like there's anger because you have to do it by yourself, or you feel kind of put out, or you feel like it's extra hard, then it's okay to ask for that help. Because if that's going to make your life easier and make your light brighter and, your burden lighter, why not? Mm-hmm. Like, let's share that. I think that's what we're supposed to do as humans.
You find your goal or your niche or your, the thing that you're really good at in life. And that's great. But I always think the goal is to then share that with other people, find what brings you light and then share that with other people for sure.
Yeah.
Have you experienced the opposite end of the spectrum where people say, you shouldn't be doing this, here, let me do everything. Have you experienced maybe the opposite end of that spectrum too?
Oh, sure. I mean, I've had people that feel like that, but they obviously haven't spent that much time with me. So yep. I think, like I said, you only have to spend one time saddling with me to know that it's my job to boot the horse. So, and I will be kind of a brat about that. Like, I'm like, hey, no, I got that. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, I just wanted to help. I'm like, no, I do. I appreciate your help with everything else. This is just like kind of my thing. Mm-hmm. And then it's just like this understanding. So no, there are people who sometimes kind of can be over the top of like, let me do this, let me do this, let me do this. And I honestly, at this point, especially if it's somebody that I'm not around every single day, I'm just going to let them, because good heavens, if I'm around somebody for one day, like at a speech, and they want to do everything, they want to carry bags for me, they want to open doors for me, I'm like, game on. Okay, sweet. Thank you. I appreciate that. Like, let's do it. I'll have a whole day off. Like, yeah. You know what I mean? It's not worth being mad about it anymore. Like, if they want to literally push me from the car to the door, game on, push me. I'm all right. Like, I have no problem with that. I push myself every other day. So it's okay. And it's just very much a shift in perspective. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I used to be bugged about it. And now I'm not. And my friends that hang out with me, literally, we went to rodeo on Saturday and there was this whole gravel parking lot and they were like, do you want to be pushed? And I just actually got an Apple Watch and I said, no, because I'm going to hit my number of pushes today. So I'm actually, and they just like laugh. They're like, all right, game on. Like, if your arms get tired, let me know, I'll push you. And they're good with that. Like, yeah, it's no big deal. It's just a mutual understanding and nobody's offended. Nobody's put out. It's just, we just go on. But these are my friends that hang out with me every day. So, right. We all know each other.
To advocate for yourself where you feel like it's needed and just kind of go with the flow in other ways, And I think that that self-advocacy can be huge and finding that confidence again, especially after a big change, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there's a lot that you have to, it's feeling good in yourself, right? And whatever, and that advocacy for yourself, you know you more than anybody else. So you know what you want and what you need.
Yeah. What would you say played the biggest role in, finding that confidence and being able to do a lot of that self-advocacy?
I think just learning, right? Just learning the relationships that I have with people. I don't like to make people mad. So, but I'm not afraid of controversy. Like, if that makes sense, like, I don't want to make people upset, but if it's needed, then that's okay too. So I think that just learning, like, hey, this was the best way to get help and make everyone feel okay at the end of the day. Let's go this route versus that really didn't work to approach it this way. Let's not do that. And like I said, even just learning, like, if somebody wants to push me because they're with me for 12 hours and they want to push me the whole 12 hours, game on. Like, don't be offended, like, to myself, because really when I leave that situation, they don't know that I felt offended. Right. And so instead, then I carry this weight that I don't need to carry. I have enough things to carry. I don't need to worry about that. So just, man, a learning experience of like, what do I want to go home with? I kind of refer it to like, we all have a backpack and we all have put the rocks in our backpack that we want to have. And I'm like, pick the rocks you want to pick. So if I need to say something and advocate for myself in order to not have that rock in my backpack, well, game on, let's do it. If this is a scenario that's easier for me to stay quiet so I don't have it, then let's do that. You try to learn as you go along of what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. And I think that's huge. Just like you said, that learning curve and experience too, right?
Yeah. Oh, you nailed it.
Excellent. We're kind of going to wrap up here. Is there anything that you want to share, with the listeners today, knowing that a lot of our audience is people who have experienced the power of horses and the power of what they can do for us, and anything that you would want to share?
I think that, so normally I try to kind of ask myself at the beginning of a podcast, I say a prayer to myself of like, hey, if there's anything that I feel like I'm supposed to share today, make sure that you share it. So the biggest thing that's on my heart today is, people, because we're on a podcast where people are around horses, make sure your horse remembers that they're valued. I think sometimes that we take our emotions from what's going on in our life and then we toss it at our horse, and our horse is always more than happy to carry it. But I think spend the time to make sure that you clear that for them too. Make sure that they know that when you go out there with those tricky emotions and, the things that you're carrying, that you don't give it to your horse. Like, you're asking them to be a part of it and help you move forward. I don't know if that sounds crazy with those who are listening, but that's just something I feel like is a big deal, and something I'm even learning with my mare outside, because I just realized that the things that I've been putting on her and the stress I've been putting on her, and she recognizes it's not her fault, but she still is carrying it. So do that, don't make your horse carry all your stress for you. They're there to help you move through everything, and they're more than happy to do it, but give them the benefit of the doubt and give them the opportunity to also be okay.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I mean, in doing what we do at Hetra, we have, over 20 horses in our herd, and we have hundreds of volunteers that are in and out every day. And I mean, that horse could be handled by 20 different people in one day. And if you think about all of the different energy and baggage and things that all of those people, whether or not of course, all of our volunteers love being there to help and they love the horses, but everybody brings different, stuff with them from work or from home or whatever. And the horses wear that happily. But then they also have to go to work and wear that stuff too, and I think that's huge. And, we had a sign for a while in the barn that said, check your energy. Like, what kind of energy are you going into that stall with? Because we use them a lot as our therapists for mental health. I always say that the horse does way more therapy for me than I do, for my riders. But they have to wear that too. And it's important to let them decompress as much as we use them for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You get it. Check your energy. I like it.
Check your energy. No doubt. So I close my podcast always with the same question, and you can choose. You can either tell me about your heart horse, which I'm sure you've had a few, or you can tell me what you think your kindred spirit, or, kind of your spirit animal, if you will, like what you think that would be, or both if you want.
Oh man, my heart horse. Everyone, you think you get a 1 in a million, and I've been lucky to have multiples of those. Like my first horse, Lacey, is the one that got me into barrel racing. And that horse, we were a match made in heaven, 100%. I mean, she's the one that gave me the passion and the love for what I do. And she was a tough cookie. She was a tough horse, but was such a marshmallow with me. And for anyone else, she was not like that. And I think that that's why we gained such this bond. So, I mean, I would give her that just for the fact is I think that she gave me the heart for this. So she would be that horse. Now, the horses I've had after that, like I have mare named Jazzy and Power and Legacy, man, they've all been huge to my journey. But I think she initiated the opening for the heart of the love of this.
And isn't that interesting? I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, like, little tiny girls, their feet barely get around to get in the stirrups, and they're just gentle giants as could be, and then anybody else handles them or rides them and they're a little bit hotter than with that little girl. I've heard that so many times, and there's no other way to explain that besides that heart connection, that soul connection for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Amberley. I just thank you so much for sharing your story and being willing to talk with us today. I think your story will touch a lot of people, and I hope that they'll seek you and hear more of what you had to say because it's all great. So,
well, thank you for that, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. This podcast is presented by Hetra University, an educational arm of the Heartland Equine Therapeutic Riding Academy. Hetra University's mission is to provide high-quality educational offerings to our participants and the equine-assisted services community. Craving more content like this? We invite you to check out our series of webinars and much, much more over at hetrauniversity.org. If you'd like to help us work toward our mission, you can make a donation by clicking on the link in the show notes below or visit us at hetra.org. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Again, my biggest thanks to you all for helping Hetra change lives one stride at a time.